I think it was about the early 80s, there began to be a lot of emphasis on trivia, who could know a lot of information about a lot of things. And of course, I was a part of that too, and it was fun. And then later on in life, then you realize you spend a lot of time gathering information or learning, quote, facts that have no value. So to me, one of the greatest challenges of today will be using your time, using our time to discern what is useful, what we can get facts, but today so many facts are used to reach false conclusions. So you have truths that are used to lie. People take correlations as being causes, meaning if every time I do this particular thing happens, then this is likely causing this. This could be true, and then again, you may be reaching a false conclusion from from facts. So information today, when we gather information, now there's a lot of discussion about credible sources or experts. This we value persons who have studied, who have been thoughtful, who have researched, but we have to be careful about ascribing the title of expert to persons, and we give our total minds over to persons who likely have much information, much good information about a particular subject, but that person cannot know everything about everything. And also, you have a responsibility to go inside of yourself, and if something does not make sense to you, if something that you don't understand, then to question and also acknowledge that that person may have 100 truths, but then one way of looking at something that's pertaining to you may not be relevant or truthful where you are concerned. So each person still has the responsibility to check externally, meaning check other sources, but also to check internally, because sometimes something would come across to you as, this just doesn't seem right. Now, of course, when we talk about going in, checking your gut or check whatever your spiritual connection is, we know that sometimes we can be in error. But I still advise people to slow down and check inside of yourself with the information that you're given. If you have a spiritual base, then check in the form of meditation or prayer or whatever, just getting quiet, especially if it's a big decision regarding career move, regarding health, regarding personal relationships. So it's advisable to go outside, but then you still have to go with what is best for you. In the field that I spent the most time in, which was in clinical social work and in trauma therapy, we would give, my mentor would say, you're a therapist, you're not a counselor, or you can be a counselor, but your main job is to be a therapist. And with that, she was encouraging me to help the client to come up with the solutions and the conclusions that they were ultimately making. And these conclusions would be things that they would take responsibility for. I would help them to reach that point by finding out what was valuable to them and by helping them to tap into their strengths and to what they had going within them. And therefore, when they came up with a decision or conclusion, then it would be theirs rather than me enforcing something upon them. They accepted superficially, but yet it wasn't theirs. They didn't own it. So in terms of taking the knowledge that wise people or knowledgeable people share, then that knowledge need to become your own, where it really means something to you on a deeper level, rather than you are accepting it because somebody who's supposed to know is telling you. And this is a part of self-confidence, as I said earlier, a part of tapping into something bigger than yourself at the times when you don't feel confident yourself and making decisions. So I hear people say nowadays, when people ask a question, well, just go Google it, just go Google it. And as I say, we still have to be conscious that a Google lie is still a lie. So as you quote, Google something or do your internet searches, always look for the author, the source, and then consider what they have to get from sharing this information with you. There are a few people, I would assume, myself included, who share information simply for the joy of being able to pass on something that maybe they or we have spent months, weeks, decades, whatever, figuring out. So we said, okay, I'd love to pass this on to somebody else so that they don't have to spend all of this time trying to figure it out. But when you're searching, nowadays, people are trying to monetize things. So we want to consider if this person is giving me information to get me to just interact, with their website. Are they trying to get me to buy something? Are they trying to get me to think in a particular way that's not necessarily for my own good? So we don't want to approach knowledge with paranoia, but just accept that people have their own reasons for sharing knowledge, and just consider what it may be. whatever you've given, especially, quote, free, just say, why is this person giving me this free? And what are they getting from it? And it could be as simple as the thing as a feeling of being charitable or whatever. But just consider that. What is this person gaining from this? So that was one of the main things that I wanted to share with anyone who may be listening or viewing this, because I think it's something that will only get to be more important as more information is being made available to us. Also, in terms of knowledge, even though we, as older, generation, may not have the direct value or even the opportunity of sharing things directly, I would just encourage people to especially reach out to persons in their own communities and in their own families, on their own blocks, to get their perspective, their information, their history on things that everything, even though so much is included on the internet now, much of your family's history, much of your block, your community, even your city history may not be included on the internet at this point. And so if you can just make contact with persons who may not have the microphone, may not have the ability to share, such as this forum, then that's really a good thing, because persons now are passing away, and many of them have experiences that will never be heard, and this is something that's a tragedy, even as even today. The age that I've lived to be, it went by quite quickly, and unfortunately, you can lose quite a bit of time just day by day, week by week. And so the time will go by quickly. So don't deliberately waste time. And what I mean by wasting time, I don't mean by having recreation. I don't mean by having a good laugh, by having fun. No, that's not wasting time, but it's just having the balance. Another point that I wanted to share, just in terms of sharing experiences between generations, is that the human connection needs to remain. When we were first closed down as a result of COVID, that was a very, I would even use the term tragic time, because if I can share a personal experience, that I had older friends who were hospitalized, and also, one went into hospice during that time. The human connection can never be replaced by the speaking in forums such as the different platforms that are given. Those things are very, very useful, but there's something about the human connection. There's something about the human touch